Let me give you a couple of updates here. One is the strategic plan that all of you have been part of, and thank you for that. We've been having these discussions for about a year. Then we had a summit here in Phoenix when it was a lot cooler in January, and many of you were here. And then what we came up with after that, and after additional discussion, surveys, so forth and so on, in a collective way, we came up with 4 major goals for the next 3 years. The first one, and this is in priority, is brand awareness, brand refresh. And what we've done internally is that we just recently, a couple days ago, hired a marketing firm to help us with that, and that's Barefoot. These discussions, these interviews, these RFPs, we've done it in a very diligent way. We've had several interviews to make sure that we do hire the right company and know that we're going to be reaching out to the affiliates, because we do want to create at least two committees. A committee for the 75th anniversary. As you know, it's coming up in 2024, so it's just around the corner. And also a separate committee that's going to help us with the conversations about brand refresh. And again, we're going to use that same transparency, the same input that we've been doing for the last 6 years, where we're getting affiliate input as we move forward with the brand refresh. We don't know yet how it's going to look like because we haven't started those conversations. And then stand by also that we want to have, and we're envisioning having another summit. It could be here again in Phoenix. I don't know when, but it could be around January, and the focus will be on the brand refresh discussion. Second on the goals is development. We want to enhance our development fundraising efforts on the national level, and also share best practices. We've hired Strat Labs. Strat Labs is going to be our consultant for a few months, and once that happens, we believe that we will be enhancing the processes, our case statement, everything that has to do with digital fundraising, so forth and so on, so then we can bring in a development director. Our third goal is advocacy. We also want to build that up. There's been a lot of movement related to advocacy. We've been partnering with a lot of folks like the Anchor, the ARC, Access. Easter Seals now has had a meeting with me, the Kendra Davenport, who is the CEO of Easter Seals. I met with her in DC, and she wants to see how we can partner UCP and Easter Seals on the advocacy levels. And then our fourth goal is affiliate growth. So just this morning, we've been working on the tactics and milestones that cover all of these goals. And this last goal, we spent a lot of time on affiliate growth. So I'm very grateful to our team, to Anita Porco, Carrie Cantrell, James Garcia, Michael Lugardo, Alexis now Sanchez, who's now on board full time, who's handling the portal. And I think a lot of you guys have been engaging more in the portal, and we're beginning to see that thanks to Carrie and to Alexis, that you're going to see a portal now that is going to be of major value to the UCP affiliates. A couple of last things here, and then I'll just open it up to see if you have any questions, is that I've had conversations, Michael Lugardo on my team, Carrie and myself, with Google. And Google was introduced to us by our partners, Waymo. So as you know, Waymo has been partnering with UCP, and we've been partnering with them on their educational component of autonomous vehicles or self-driving vehicles. Well, they introduced us to Google. And the reason for that, the relationship between Waymo and Google, is that the parent company is Alphabet. So to our surprise, and we were very happy to know that they have several components that benefit the disability community. So we've had conversations with Alexander Jensen, and he is the accessibility program manager. Jerry Robinson, he's the UX researcher, and UX meaning user experience. And then just recently, Jennifer Nelson, who's the UX research project manager. And what all of this is leading to is that we now have a tangible partnership with Google where when they're looking for affiliates and their families to be part of research projects, that they're looking to explore different applications, apps, different concepts that will benefit the lives of people with disabilities. So we haven't had our first request, but what I understand is that when we do get a request, they're going to give us a particular geographical area, and it's our hope that we have a UCP there. Then I'll connect with the UCP executive, and then that executive will connect directly with Google to see what that research entails. What they have said to us that it appears that it's going to be in the Bay Area, in the California, San Francisco area, and also in the New York area. So stay tuned. And I believe then that's going to be spreading out throughout the country. So I'm really excited about that because, again, this is all tangible stuff that's going to benefit not only the people that you're serving, but the people across the country and globally. Just a little bit about where I've been traveling. I'm trying to move my notes here. I got this electronic. I'll try to remember this. So a bit of my travel has increased tremendously, and really it's heading out to visit affiliates. So in the last few months, I visited UCP of San Luis Obispo, UCP of Cleveland. I'm heading out to UCP of Georgia. In fact, I was there for their memorial. If you remember the tragic and horrific accident that happened in Georgia, UCP of Georgia, where they lost 5 individuals. 4 of them were individuals that were being served, and one of them was a therapist. I was driving the van, so I was there for their memorial representing UCP National. I'll be heading out to UCP Seguin, that's Chicago, for the 2nd time. I'll be in Canada, CP Alberta, for their gala. I'll be at UCP Mobile, and I think there's others that I can't see in my notes here. But my point here is not the idea that I'm just traveling just to travel, but the idea is that I'm also meeting with board members. So one that's coming up that I just recalled here is UCP or Michigan, my UCP or Michigan UCP. So I'll be in Detroit and I'll be speaking to the board, and Lori, I'll be speaking to your board. And really what it is that we have the space and the opportunity now to share with the UCP affiliates, with their teams, with their board members in person. I would prefer that, is that we get to speak about what the future is going to look like and how that affects the affiliates. And I think that that is a very effective way when I do engage with board members, because they do ask a lot of questions. So I'm glad that we're in this particular space now, that we can go ahead and that I can go ahead and make some more visits. And then we're also working strategically internally that I get freed up from a lot of the moving parts that I'm part of, and then really get out to the disability community, but also to our affiliates in the United States and in Canada. Any questions before we go into the next segment? Okay, thank you. Thank you again for being on this call. So now I'm excited to introduce a video from the UCP Research Committee that speaks to the research grants. You know, when we first began to talk about research, it was something that was a vision that I had, and it was resurrected. And thanks to really the work of Valerie Piercini and her vision and her leadership, and Dr. Kruer, and then came about this blue ribbon committee that includes Dr. Gormley and many others that started moving very, very quickly. The concern was in the beginning was that the funds that were earmarked for research, that they were just going to be shelved, and they were going to be research that perhaps it wasn't going to be of any value to the affiliates. But really, thanks to the due diligence of this committee, those monies have been reinvested back to the affiliates. They've been reinvested in grants, they've been reinvested in scholarships, they've been reinvested in partnerships with many other national organizations and international organizations that are working on research. So I'm very, very pleased that this is rolled out in a big way. I don't have that background, but they do, and they've been very, very supportive of where we're heading and really looking at breakthroughs to make a difference in people's lives. So with that said, we're going to introduce the video, and then Carrie Cantrell will go ahead and take it from there. So thank you. Thanks, Carrie.
Sorry about that delay. Thank
you all for being here. I wish I was there, and enjoy.
Oh, can you guys hear the sound on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Good afternoon. On the behalf of United Cerebral Palsy's Research Committee, I want to welcome you to today's town hall. I am Valerie Pericini. I am the Executive Director of Therapies and Early Learning at United Cerebral Palsy of Central Arizona. I am also the co-chair of the UCP Research Committee along with Dr. Michael Kruer. Both of us apologize for not being here today. Unfortunately for me, my husband had a death in the family. I hopefully right now am on a plane to Memphis, Tennessee, his hometown, to be able to attend the funeral. I did want to start this presentation with two of my quotes. The first one is from Michael, my co-chair. Research does not always occur in a petri dish, and it doesn't have to take 17 years to impact lives. This is a quote from UCP's Vision for the Future this last January. It's also at the heart of what we're attempting to do with this research initiative, which is to take research and translate it into care, to transform care for the individuals that we serve, whether with cerebral palsy or other disabilities. Another favorite quote is from Dr. Diane Damiano, who is also part of our research committee. Outdated or untested therapies are still rampant. So this is also an important part of our initiative, to be able to transform care so that we know as affiliates that what we're doing is effective and can truly change lives. So the sum of all of this is the research committee's motto, and that we believe change is possible, and we hope that you can see that today. So I wanted to take just a moment to define what is translational research. So translational research fosters multi-directional integration of research into care and then care into research. It's also patient-oriented, and it's a population-based research with the goal of improving the health of the public. Why translational research? Well, it assesses and develops treatments in the real world. It implements protocols and provides infrastructure and practice settings. It promotes program development and stability. The research format requires structure and accountability. And lastly, and I think quite important, is that it advances community standards of care. So today we are here to hear we're here to be able to hear what our grant recipients have so far accomplished, whether it be their challenges or what they're hoping to do, or what they've already done. But we want them to know that we're behind them and we congratulate them in their work. These recipients include Cincinnati Children's Hospital, Texas Women's University and Scottish Rite for Children, James Madison University, and our affiliate that we're very proud of is Gillette Children's. I hope that each one of you know that the research committee believes that your translational research can lead to transformative care. And then I want to let you all know that we're going to do this again in 2024, so keep your eye on ucp.org, our website. We expect the applications will be available on March 25th, 2024. And then I have to put a plug in for our professional learning series, because this is for you. It's for the clinicians and the direct care workers that are in the field. This is knowledge mobilization at its best. This is information for you to be able to use and take back to your practice. So grab that QR code and learn more. So I want to thank you all for being here. I wish I was there, and enjoy.
Okay, well, those are some great words from Valerie. Once again, we're so happy to have everyone here today who was a research grant program recipient in 2022. So I'm going to do the honors of bringing on our first presenters. So first, we're going to hear from Heather Roberts and Angela Shierk from Texas Women's University and Scottish Rite for Children. They submitted a proposal entitled Implementing Therapy Together with the State of Texas Early Childhood Intervention Program. And they're going to share a little bit about that program with us. Ladies.
Introduction. Heather, do you want to share? Do you want me to?
Yeah, it's fine. We have slides for you all, so I will go ahead and share that. Oops. One second, I'm sorry. There we go. Everybody seeing that okay? Okay, go ahead, Angela.
Right, thank you so much. We are excited to be here today to share an update. So I'm Angela and my colleague Heather from Scottish Rite and from Texas Women's University.
So we're going to just kind of tag team here as we present. And so our research, the focus of our research is with children with unilateral cerebral palsy, with young children with unilateral CP. And we want to just mention that unilateral CP is relatively a new term, and they're moving away, shifting from the use of hemiplegia or hemiparesis due to the difficulties in translation and different languages of what that word means. So unilateral CP has been, or UCP has been the term that we've come to use. And as most of y'all are aware, 30% of the children are diagnosed with CP. And fortunately, we've had some great researchers out there give us some great evaluative tools. So assessments like the the hand assessment for infants are allowing us to detect these children at younger and younger age ranges. And the other part we want to mention is the word developmental disregard, coined by Dr. DeLuca and Dr. Ramey, different from the adult stroke of left neglect. The developmental disregard happens not because the child may not have that function of using that upper extremity, but just that it doesn't work as well. So then they continue not to use it, and then they lose that function.
So our program is focused on pediatric constraint-induced movement therapy, which is one of the most researched interventions in the field of occupational therapy. We have really good evidence that this is an effective treatment approach, and we really wanted to focus on how can we get this approach into a standard of care model. And so we developed what we call the Therapy Together program.
And so what is Therapy Together? It's a 56-hour pediatric constraint-induced movement therapy program. And Angela and I are both parents, and so it was really important for us. And also, we've also been clinicians for around 20 years. We're dating ourselves now. But it was important for us to be able to get the constraint-induced movement therapy program into the hands of the families and make it easy for them to implement in their home and in their lifestyle. Oftentimes there's other children. So we developed a caregiver led program. They meet weekly for about an hour with their therapist. And then the rest of the intervention is embedded into their home life or in their environment. It's focused on improving the involved upper extremity, and it consists of 8 weeks. The first 7 weeks are that while the upper extremity is constrained, and then the last week is trying to embed those newly found skills in those two-handed activities.
So specifically for the study, we were wanting to recruit children that were between the ages of 3 months and 35 months who presented with asymmetric hand use. They either had a diagnosis of unilateral CP or were at risk for developing CP. To participate in the program, we wanted them to be able to visually attend to objects and at least demonstrate some interest in using the involved side. The model we use for this implementation study is that Heather and I trained the ECI therapist, and then the ECI therapist worked with the family to do the caregiver coaching, so that we're trying to embed this program into standard of care practice. Children that had uncontrolled seizures, significant visual impairment, or severe behavioral problems were excluded from the study, but today we have not had anyone meet exclusion criteria.
So our data collection process, what we used, the primary outcome measure is the assisting hand assessment, or in most of the cases with the kiddos that we have recruited, the mini, which is designed for children ages 8 to 18 months. This assessment tool is a well-established and frequently used tool to measure how effectively the child uses their unilateral, their involved upper extremity collaboratively with their good hand and during two-handed activities. We use the Canadian Occupational Performance Measure, which is an evidence-based outcome measure designed to capture the family's self-perception of their goals, and they rate them on a scale of 1 to 10 on how well that child's performing the goal and how happy that they are or how satisfied they are. The other outcome measure we use with the developmental assessment of young children, or the DAISY. This is a popular instrument used, and it is actually currently used as one of the mandatory outcome measures for Texas's ECI program. It has six different domains that it covers or assesses. That includes cognition, communication, social, emotional, physical, and adaptive behavior. And then we also ask the families to complete weekly caregiver logs, documenting and detailing how many hours did they perform the therapy, how easy was it, how hard was it. There was survey questions to go along with that.
This is the exciting slide, our preliminary results. So far progress that we have made, really establishing relationships with ECI in Austin and the central leadership team, getting through our own IRBs and all of the IRBs and compliances with all of the many ECI programs that are throughout the state of Texas was an undertaking, but it is moving forward. And so far, we went back and scored all of our assessments, and we've had 4 triads completed. So the patient, the caregiver, and the therapist, 2 male and 2 female patients between the ages of 12 and 24 months. And we've had a really, even with just 4 triads, a varied family structure. So one family, both parents worked, one family, dad stayed at home, one family, mom stayed at home. And so we had English speaking, Spanish speaking. And so we've just seen a lot of different dynamics around the structure of the family, and are excited to say that we were able to implement it across the variabilities of the situations. For the Canadian Occupational Performance Measure, we had clinically significant changes in all of the goals that they set. And those were all two-handed goals, or how they use their hands from before the program to after. For the mini AHA, the mean change score was 10 points, and you need a change of 5 for it to be clinically relevant. So that's a really nice change in how they're using their assisting hand post-program. And then from the caregiver logs, we found that they were able to implement the number of hours recommended at 90 to 100%. The parents rated each week. They tell us, was this easy to implement or difficult? And 83% of the time they rated it as either as easy to implement the program or it even enhanced the way their family routines worked. And then last word, we also asked them to rate how they thought their child's hand function was doing from week to week. And they said 80% of the time that they saw an improvement from 1 week to the next.
In addition, we met with the therapists weekly, and this is just a word cloud of the different field notes and interviews as talking with the therapist. And as you can see, some of the words that stick out are research. The therapist commented how nice it was to be able to go to the parents and say, this is this therapy that we're doing has research backing it. And so that's why we're choosing to do this therapy. That was a really nice thing for the therapist to be able to tell the families. They also said that having the videos, we have video-based instruction embedded into the program, that the videos are very helpful. Obviously, hand is going to come up quite a lot, and having the manual, it be manualized allowed for the therapist not to have to think so much. So they didn't have to do as much treatment planning those 8 weeks because they could just pull out the manual and it was already done. That lesson or that therapy session was already planned for them. They were very excited to be able to use that.
Right. So as we've implemented this with the 4 different families, we've thought about what has been successful around implementation. And actually the ECI leadership asked us, they're like, how are you getting this to work? And I think some key things that have been helpful are, like Heather mentioned, that it is manualized. We have 8 week, there's a caregiver manual, and we train off of that manual and we implement off of that manual. That we include videos of the activities as well as video instruction to the therapist and to the parent. That the therapist can problem solve and celebrate success with us during the weekly check-ins has been a helpful resource to them. Through the grant, we've also been able to give the families toys that facilitate hand function for their child, and that's been a huge resource and very much appreciated from the family. And then training the therapists on both the intervention as well as related topics to CP. We're learning that this is not the primary diagnosis that a lot of the ECI therapists are treating, and so just bringing them up to date on what I would consider standard education around CP, they have found really helpful. And then just keeping the training modules very concise and time limited, because all of the ECI therapists are pretty overbooked and their time is limited. So those have been some successful implementation components.
So what's next for us? We want to have one final tryout to recruit. We're working diligently on that. We want to continue to analyze the data and then disseminate the findings. An interesting development has come. ECI has asked us to develop continuing education webinars for their therapists. Currently, they have no continuing education on cerebral palsy at all. So our first webinar is going to be CP 101. What is CP for those therapists? Just to get the word out of what CP is and see if we can identify some more of those kiddos. From this study and the grant that we received here, we were able to submit to the American Occupational Therapy Foundation, and we were funded to continue this research to do a waitlisted control study. So we'll be starting that here shortly. And then we also hope to develop an engagement committee with different parents and adolescents and adults with cerebral palsy to continue to inform our research processes. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth, so much. If anybody has any questions for this presentation, just go ahead and throw them in the chat. And after our next couple presentations, we will do questions and answers. So next up, we have Kelli Moberg and Dr. Mark Gormley, as well as Mark Jankowski, who is the research study coordinator from Gillette Children's. And while I am probably going to butcher the title of their study, I'm going to give it a shot. They are doing a study on the use of the affected limb in children with hemiplegic cerebral palsy as measured by accelerometry, I don't know, followed infancy initiated constraint induced movement therapy. It is a pilot study. So I'm going to turn it over to them for their presentation, and hopefully they can clarify some of the words that I don't have in my vocabulary. Thank you all.
Thanks, Carrie. I've struggled saying accelerometers as well. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm Kelli Moberg. I'm an occupational therapist, and this is Mark Jankowski. He's our research coordinator, and Mark Gormley is, I believe, on the call. There he is. Okay. All right. So we're also talking about infant CIMT, but we'll give you a little bit more background than Heather and Angela did on CIMT, and then we'll briefly talk about our study. So CIMT, and I'm using the term hemiplegia, but Heather and Angela, thank you for educating me of the new term of unilateral CP. So this is an intensive treatment modality to train the weaker arm with unilateral CP. It involves some type of restraint on the stronger arm. The restraint types could be a cast, a sling, or a mitten. Most of the research I've read is using a cast or a mitten. It involves repetition of movements, the children exploring their environment on their own versus us moving their hand for them. Caregiver training, and whether the caregivers are training them or us as therapists are training them, just to be a just right level, so they are challenged but successful. So the overall goal is improved spontaneous self-initiated use of their weaker hand for both one and two-handed activities. So we have a couple videos to show you a child with left unilateral CP. So this is before he had CIMT, and we also did bimanual training with him. So look at his left arm. And now this video is after CIMT. Whoops, I'm sorry, I started the wrong one. Here we go. So these Legos are easier for him to hold on to, but you can see his skills have definitely improved with using his left hand as definitely a more effective helper. Then we have two more videos. All of these videos were taken from the assisting hand assessment. As Heather and Angela stated, it's the gold standard assessment looking at bimanual skills. So again, we're looking at left hand. And then this is after. Again, you can see that was a much easier task for him to do, using his left hand as a helper. And then just some information on what infant CIMT is. So it's different from just the regular modified CIMT. So it's been adapted and modified for infants to be more developmentally appropriate. So most of the studies with infant CIMT use a removable restraint. The first published study on a protocol that I'm aware of was in 2014. This is the same as regular CIMT. It involves repetition of specific movements, the children exploring their environment on their own versus us moving their hand for them. And then either us or the caregivers providing the just right level challenge. And then the same goal is improve spontaneous self-initiated use of the weaker hand for both one-handed and two-handed activities. So what we're really excited about, that we're a grant recipient, is that receiving this grant is allowing us to develop our infant CIMT program to be evidence-based. It's allowed us to receive training from a baby CIMT manual, and that was published in Sweden. And all of our OTs have been trained in this. We're in the process of creating caregiver education materials for them. And so we're really excited that we get to be part of this. And the other part of our study that we're really excited about is what we're studying is using accelerometers to measure movements of what the child is doing in their natural environment before and after treatment. And so it's basically like a smartwatch on both of their arms, measuring their movements. And we're correlating this with caregiver logs of their training, and also we're putting a temperature sensor into our removable mitten. And we would love this if this turned into a long-term study, that we're able to study these kids 3 years post-treatment. This is a pilot study, so we're learning as we go. And this is for our inclusion criteria is children ages 3 to 17 months at risk or confirmed cerebral palsy hemiplegia. And the minimum for our protocol is CIMT for 36 hours, and then a minimum of bimanual training for 12 hours. That's the bare minimum. We're hoping the children tolerate it and can do much more than that. And then here are some pictures of what this is, the removable mitten. And then this is with the temperature sensor embedded into it. And then this is a picture of what the accelerometer looks like. So it looks like a smartwatch. And that is it.
Thank you guys so much. It was also a wonderful presentation and really enhanced the information we learned from the first one as well. We have one more presentation for you guys today. The next presentation is Transforming Health Through Relationships via in-person and virtual environments, the Thrive program. It is going to be presented by Dr. Thomas Moran and some of his colleagues at James Madison University from the Empowerment 3 Center, Eric Tiobrago and Bronte Cutiel.
Harry, can you see our slides okay?
We can see your slides okay, but we see the presenter view.
All right, let's see if we can change that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Display settings. While I'm doing that all right, so can you now just see the slides?
Yes, it's perfect.
Perfect. All right. So I'm a kinesiologist by training, and I can't do a presentation without staying true to my profession. And any of you who have seen me present before know this. And so what I'm going to ask everybody to do who is able is to either stand or identify a way in which you're going to celebrate your abilities. And we're all going to take 15 seconds to move and celebrate our abilities. And when I say freeze, you got to strike your best pose, celebrating your abilities. Ready? Stand if you are able, or figure out your movements. Go. Dance, do whatever you want to do. I'm going to actually show our video. So now you can see the crazy things that we're doing, right? I always say I can do the best wobble because nobody can wobble like I can. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, strike your pose. All right, so hopefully that got your blood going after 2 dynamic presentations, but the reality is we've all been on our bottoms for a period of time. So now you're back awake and ready to rock and roll, and you are truly ready to thrive. Dr. Tom Moran, professor of kinesiology at James Madison University and founder and executive director of the Empowerment 3 Center. So just a quick background on Empowerment 3. So it's the Center for Physical Activity and Wellness for the Underserved. I was that young boy who grew up in Nunde, New York, who was the only person that not only had CP in his area, but the only person that had a disability in his area, or so I thought, right? Because I was the only one who had an obvious physical disability. And so I often would say, why God, why me? Give CP to somebody else. Because in my town, there were 3 options: sports, drugs, or dead. And I'm being told because I have CP, I can't do sports or physical activity. My walker, my forearm crutches were weapons, and I'm not allowed to be on the field. Drugs, well, I got enough issues already. And the 3rd option didn't sound like a good idea. So it's always fun to tell that story very briefly, because when I tell people now that everything I do is all about physical activity and movement, they look at me like I have 12 heads. But everything we do in Empowerment 3 is all about physical activity, one-on-one mentorship, and social connection. And that social connection is not just mentor to mentee in all of our interventions, but it is peer to peer, right? And so obviously today we're here to talk specifically about our Thrive CP, but I wanted to show you kind of the landscape that is Empowerment 3. And you're going to hear at the end, but for affiliates and even researchers in the crowd, we are getting ready to launch our next wave of programming. So there's still an opportunity for all those consumers you serve to jump on the Thrive train. Okay, so the participants that have joined our first cohort, right, this past spring, here's what they said in the beginning. No way, I can't do this. What abilities, right? All I know are my disabilities, and you can see others, right? And so we're dealing with the perceived ability, right, that is often put on them by their parents, by their peers, by society, right? And so realizing we have to break that down across the communities, right? And so the focus of Thrive CP, our specific project aim utilizing these funds, was to look at how can we transform physical and emotional health outcomes, specifically for children and adults with CP across the country. And you'll see a little bit of data on that later. And then we're also looking at the impact of the one-on-one mentorship on the self-efficacy of the future professionals that are working with these wonderful children and adults with CP. So Thrive, as Carrie wonderfully stated, all the words were in her vocabulary, right? It's transforming health through relationships, through that one-on-one mentorship, via in-person or virtual environments. This was an intervention that I developed coming back from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services in January of 21, because in the 18 months while I was in HHS, we saw how the pandemic not only affected people's physical and emotional health, but it just realized how we did not have things in place for individuals or families to support their health journey. And so Thrive was really about how do we help someone turn their home, their bedroom, their living room into their personalized physical activity space. For those that were doing virtual programming, how do we help them turn their backyard into their personalized physical activity space with the support of that one-on-one mentor, helping them create those peer connections. And then our long-standing goal was to connect them to opportunities in their community. And you're going to hear a little bit about that when Bronte shares our data. So who are the one-on-one mentors? Who are those activity buddies? And we are intentional to call them that because they're engaging alongside, right? They're not just barking orders, do this exercise, do this movement, and they're watching. They're doing it alongside, right? And so the absolute joy of the work of our center is you can see all those professions that are now getting hands-on experience working with children and adults with CP, ranging from as young as 2 to, believe it or not, our oldest participant is 100 years old in a local retirement community, right? Just turned 100 this spring. And so that is one of the byproducts when I created this center that I never realized how we could get. I think our number is 25 different academic programs are now getting hands-on experience working with children and adults with CP and other developmental disabilities across our center. So once a participant signs up and becomes a Thrive participant, what do they get? They get a personalized activity backpack, Because if they don't have equipment to use in their bedroom or living room, they're not going to be physically active. And so you'll see a little picture of some of those things, to include a heart rate and pedometer watch, right? That'll actually track their movements and give us a little bit of heart rate data. Okay, so that is the equipment that they get to use at home. We develop Thrive calendars, right? Which have actual links to videos and other opportunities. And we have our monthly activity guides that are physical activity pieces, wellness pieces, nutrition elements, and recipes that they get to do alongside their families, alongside their peers, in addition to that weekly mentorship that they may get in an individualized group or virtual setting. Okay, and so I'm just going to show you a couple quick examples before I get ready to pass it on to our wonderful teammates. So here was our December calendar. And again, you can see we try to make them tie into different themes. Here's an example of our March activity packet. So there are activities going across each week, right? There are at least 2 physical activity pieces, 2 wellness pieces, and at least 1 nutritional piece. And again, some things are for younger participants, some things are for adolescents, and some are for our older participants. So hopefully, again, if they're in a familial environment, there's something for everyone. And now the siblings or the peer groups can engage in some fun activities together. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to my wonderful colleague, Eric.
Playing musical chairs. Hi, I'm Eric T. Obrego. I am the Presidential Engagement Fellow here for Empowerment 3. So here at E3, we're actually culturally responsive, we're trauma aware, and we're neurosequentially informed. So what does that mean? So we are culturally aware because we are mindful of our participants' backgrounds, lifestyles, and traditions. We're trauma aware because we train our mentors to be conscious of our participants' past experiences in health and physical activity settings. And we're neurosequentially informed because we follow the 6 R's of CTN. Just to name 3, we try to have our programs be repetitive, so our participants have a familiar thing to come back to. We're also respectful to our participants, so instead of looking at their limitations, we celebrate their ability. And we also reward our participants for each program. So just trying and completing our program, so we reward them to foster continued interest in our program. So as stated previously, our goal is to create these spaces for the community to come participate and grow with the help of physical activity and mentorship. One of the ways we do this is with face-to-face programs lasting 8 to 10 weeks, as we stated before, all aimed for all ages from 2 to 100. And we work with schools, recreation centers, and universities to bring programs like superhero training to the public scope. Superhero training is a group-focused program that helps participants with CP, both ambulatory and those who use a wheelchair, to train in body control, flexibility, and upper and lower body strength. It has been one of our participant favorites for a few years now. While superhero training is a face-to-face program, we do have the ability to conduct this program 100% virtually. We also have the resources to train affiliates on how to implement this program in their own localities. We understand that some participants and mentors are unable to participate in group activity, and in order to meet their needs, we also offer individualized mentorship. Activities are participant-based, but as we stated, we do offer the monthly packet and book bag to guide physical activity. In these individualized mentorships, our greatest strength are actually our mentors. So for example, we have an ability first mentor named Brady. Brady is a 39-year-old adult with CP located in upstate New York. He originally began as a participant in one of our programs, but after working with him and finding out he's a great leader, he actually leads one of our programs now and is a valued member of our team despite the distance. And we understand this ability to reach participants is something that we at E3 work hard to achieve. This is why this year we have been working with NextJ Health. It is a connected wellness service that is 100% personalized and virtual. This virtual platform provides participants with a wellness coach and gives them access to mental, physical, and emotional health information. We hope that if participants are unable to join our program, that they are still given the same opportunities with the help of this platform that works on their time. And now I'll pass it off to Bronte to interpret our data from last semester.
Hi, I'm Bronte Cutil, and I'm the project director for Thrive CP. So this is a snapshot of our data. We had 30 participants, 15 male, 15 female, and 2/3 of our participants came in once a week. So there's 3 statistically significant data points I wanted to point out, which is the 6-minute walk, which tested cardio endurance, and you can see that the steps jumped from 529 to almost 600. And the sit to stand, which tested lower body strength and endurance. And as you can see, they were able to sit and stand on average 2 more times. The Thomas test tested lower body flexibility. And as you can see, the participants gained more flexibility in their hip flexors. The other 2 data points that I wanted to mention were the increase in push-ups, which from pre to post test worked on their upper body muscular endurance. And then the time up and go, which as the participants got faster when their agility and stability improved. So this next slide has some brief data on emotional wellness and quality of life of our participants. 2 of the boxes that I really wanted to point out was that 98% of our participants indicate improved quality of life. So with that, there's an example that we've had 4 adults that started out as participants, and they have asked to become a peer mentor or a co-lead in our program. The other box that I wanted to point out was that 93% of our participants indicate an increase in one's self-efficacy to successfully engage in future programs. And that's another example that these participants have already indicated an upcoming program that they're interested at JMU or even in their community. And I'm sure some of you are probably wondering how to get your participants signed up. So the big QR code in the middle of the slide is for those of you who want to connect with us or to express interest. And then the smaller QR code in the left bottom corner is the registration link for participants who are ready to start in the upcoming programs. We would want to partner with you so that we can bring these opportunities to families and individuals all over. We would work with you to offer virtual class, one-on-one opportunities, and face-to-face opportunities. And we would also create a personalized flyer, which would show what each of the families or individuals would receive, like the monthly activity packets and the backpacks. And now I'll pass it on to Dr. Moran.
So in closing, right, we put this slide up because that's truly what we're trying to create, is not just equity, not just equality, but truly creating access and opportunity. And so with that, we want to announce that our next enrollment period for the Thrive CP intervention starts next Monday. And so folks have just about a month to get your folks enrolled. And so with that, Carrie, I'll pass the virtual mic back to you for Q&A.
Thank you guys so much. And what great timing since it starts just around the corner. So I'd love to turn it over to you guys. Please let me know if you have any questions that you would like to present to any of our groups today. So I think Dr. Moran, you and your group did a great job of saying kind of like how UCP affiliates can get involved with your program, or potentially even talk to you about how they could implement something similar or learn from your takeaways. But I'd love to know from the other groups, what are some ways that UCP's affiliates could potentially interact with you on the research that you presented today?
We are happy to train anyone on therapy together that is interested in being trained. And then honestly, from Gillette, I feel like we should have a side conversation because we were pretty much doing the same thing. We should join forces. But yeah, anyone that wants, we can train therapists on therapy together virtually or in person. And we would love to do that for anyone that's interested.
Thank you, Angela. I was just typing a chat message to you to see how could we connect. I would love to do that.
Perfect. Well, I know we're running on short on time today, so I guess I'll turn it back to Armando unless there's any other questions.
Thanks, Carrie. I really appreciate it. And thanks for your facilitation. I also want to share my gratitude to the distinguished presenters today and the information that you've shared with our affiliates and those that have participated here. Our next CEO town hall will happen the second week of November. So we're working right now on that particular topic. But with that said, I wish everybody to cool weather right now and that you have a great day. And thank you so much on behalf of United Cerebral Palsy.